And some of people that are on this journey would like to say, stop, I think I'd like to go back. I would think I would like to milk it for a little more. I'd like to have just a little more of the pleasure, of the rushes, of the romantic drama. Be reborn. Be reborn. Be reborn. Because as long as you identify with your separateness, you are involved, for example, in romantic love. Do you love me? How much do you love me? Do you love me enough? Will you always love me? I mean, it's infinitely milkable for drama, for emotional Sturm und Drang. I mean, it's just so thick with stuff. But once it starts to die, because you come into a space behind it, it's what St. John talks about, the dark night of the soul, when you have died to the world and you have not yet been fully born into divinity.
Seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned.
Cosmic giggle. And then the answer, finally, you become what, there's a writer, Castaneda, who's written some books. Don Juan is the guru of that, the curandero, written about Mexico, Mexican mystic traditions. And Don Juan teaches about being an impeccable warrior. And he says you learn to live with controlled folly. You huff and you puff and you make believe it matters even though you know that it doesn't. And that's the one that's very uncomfortable to most people. Because all the time they grew up, they were told it didn't matter. And suddenly it doesn't matter, and they are embarrassed and ashamed and frightened by the implications of it. I was in Hawaii recently, and I started to talk at a lecture, and I try to keep myself from getting too far out because, well, I'll show you. I started to talk about what's called cosmic giggle. Cosmic giggle. Cosmic giggle. Cosmic giggle. The cosmic, the kind of humor of the whole predicament of humanity, the cosmic giggle. And I was trying to relate the cosmic giggle to suffering, which is an interesting challenge, because suffering seems so real and heavy, and how do you giggle about that? And the next day, the headline in the newspaper of the article about me said, "Ex-drug guru says life a cosmic giggle." And I could see the mind of the reporter or the headline writer. There was no way I could do that without seeming to profane the sacred of the personality, which takes drama as terribly real. Stand behind it and see there's the thises and that's, and see it all just as it is, without judgment, without clinging, without aversion, without pulling or pushing. Just be with it just the way it is. It takes a certain deadness. It's not deadness in the sense of you're not experiencing things. All of them are being experienced. It's just that they are in a context in which they just become phenomena arising and existing and passing away. And what I saw was my work at that point was to learn how to live my life impeccably, honor my incarnation perfectly, so that I could be free through form, not in spite of form. Most of us think we're only free when we break out of forms. But as long as you're in an incarnation, there's no way out of form. You are in form. So the question is, can you be free in form? For a lot of us, we thought freedom was being able to not work, for example. Freedom had to do with external freedom. It had to do with political systems. It had to do with economics. It had to do with how you spent your time. But if you are around affluent people at all, you begin to see that that kind of freedom is not free. That those people are as trapped in their minds as people who have very considerable economic hardships. And that when we're talking about real freedom, we're talking about the freedom of awareness from identification with thought. That's the deepest kind of freedom that Buddha talks about. And so the exercise becomes, how do you live in form? How do you live your life and do everything you do every day without getting lost in it? So that you are in it but not of it. So that there is all the feelings and emotions and the play, but it has the quality of play, or as like Hermann Hesse talks about it, as a game, or a dance, as we talked about in the world of Shiva. The dance of life. The play or the dance. And how do you live your life in such a way that it's a dance, a play, a sweet life, rather than it's all so heavy and serious, and I'm so important, and whether I live or die is very irrelevant. first, you take on little things that you can sort of keep your consciousness in. For example, I go into meditation for periods of time, and I get very quiet inside, and then I come out into the world, and something comes along, and it doesn't grab me. It comes at me, and I see it. Like people's projections are interesting. When your mind is quiet, you see the way other minds project. Like when I lecture, which I do quite frequently, I usually stand out front and say hello to people and welcome people. And since I'm like, from my point of view, I'm like a rent-a-ronda. I don't have a great sense of being somebody important. I'm a form. I'm just here. So I can feel people's projections, and I become very, almost chameleon-like, and I become what they project, what they expect, since it doesn't matter to me. So somebody comes up and says, "Ramdas," and I say, "Yes." Ramdas, yes. Ramdas. 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 You respond, you just become it, because it doesn't matter. You're sitting behind it, you're right here. And often you look into somebody's eyes, and even as we are going through these little projective dances, we are recognizing one another behind it. So sweet. It is so incredibly sweet to go into the bank teller to cash a check. Who do you see? Wow, that's interesting. If you see a bank teller, if you're a check casher, you see a bank teller. If you're resting in your being and you're just a being who happens to be cashing a check, you meet a being who happens to be a bank teller. Now, he or she may not be, they may think they are a bank teller. And your job, you have no moral right or even opportunity to say, "Come on, you know you're not a bank teller." It's all empty. Your mind and your awareness becomes an environment. You see, it's all empty. Where if somebody else would like to come up for air, there's nothing in you that will keep them stuck. That's the secret. Not that you force them to come up, but you create an environment where you're not caught in any plane. You're seeing bank teller, man, woman, helper, server of humanity, fellow soul who took birth and happens to be a bank teller. You see God in drag, God at play. you see it's all empty. It's all true. It's all relatively real. All of it is relatively real. And you're sitting with all of it simultaneously. And you're just cashing the check. And then they are who they need to be. And it's quite extraordinary that as you get less and less caught in your roles that you are fulfilling, many of them every day, you learn how to play them impeccably, and yet always remain quiet inside. Quite equanimous and quite present, quite clear. Quite clear. And you're amazed at how many people are right there waiting for you to be there for them to happen. And how surprising it is what packages they come in. As often you would expect that in that package you will not find a conscious being. You'll find somebody who's very asleep into their role. It's quite a surprise to find them right there, like your child, for example. People, when they have children, get busy being parents. And they really take their themselves as parents seriously. And for you to see behind that veil, you see that your child is just another being, just like you. It just happens to be a little one. And that you have on this plane a function. You have a biological function, a social function. But don't get lost in it. Don't get lost in it. Stay in the consciousness right behind it. Consciousness right behind it. But don't get lost in it.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Consciousness right behind it. But fulfill it. That doesn't mean you say, oh, come on, you're not my kid. Because as you allow more and more planes of reality, it's like baklava. It's just so many planes, so many levels of stuff. It's so thick, it's so rich. The moment itself is enough. There is another quality.
Rampage. Unstoppable.
I've spent 25 years, as I said, trying very hard to be divine. But don't get lost in it. Your spirit is going to grow. About a year ago, I met an old colleague of mine from Harvard. And after about 15 minutes, he said, you know, Dick, you haven't changed a bit. Because in the eyes of the beholder, each person sees their own projected system. There's a statement also in the Tao that says, truth waits for eyes unclouded by longing. That when you desire something, you see only the outward container. You see only the projections of your desire. If you're very hungry, you only see what's edible. A line one of my teachers used once. When a pickpocket meets a saint, he sees only his pockets. It's that situation where you only see the projections of your own desires as to what will fulfill or frustrate. So it is only as you quiet your mind so that you are quite extricated from identification with your own desires. It doesn't mean the desires aren't there. It doesn't mean my neuroses aren't there. It's all there. just that you are no longer identified with the body. Your awareness, you, when I talk about you, I mean your awareness. Your awareness has come out of it so that it's in it, but not of it. It honors it, it experiences it, acknowledges it, but it isn't lost in identification. For example, when I was identified with my body, I was busy not going bald. That was very important to me. And I had a long piece of hair that I used to wear like this, and I always knew which way the wind blew. I always liked this. And now it's really quite no consequence, and I don't expect the more enlightened I get, the more hair I'll grow. It will still be there, and I will still be bald. But now it's just it's style instead of a problem. Instead of a problem, it's stylistic. My neuroses are my style instead of problems. It just changes, just that little flicker. But one of the things that has changed in me, and this is something that it would have been hard to tell my colleague about from Harvard, is that I have begun to fall in love with the universe.
The might of Lockbar approaches.
And it's hard to talk about that. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond. I am also the grass snake who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. I am also the merchant of arms, selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee in a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by the sea. I am also the pirate. My heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears.
I'm going.
So full, it fills up all the four oceans. Please call me by my correct names, so that I can hear at the same time all my cries and my laughs, so that I can see that my joy and pain are but one. Please call me by my correct names, so that I could become awake, so the door of my heart be left open. The quality of love has no boundaries. There's no other in love. There is us at one level, and at the deeper level, there is only I. We are merged in love. Call me by my true name. The other quote is still in Buddhism, but it's on the edge. It's a quote from the poet Kabir. Since the day when I met with my Lord, there has been no end to the sport of our love. I see with eyes open and smile, and behold his beauty everywhere. I utter his name, and whatever I see reminds me of him. Whatever I do, it becomes his worship. Wherever I go, I move round him, fall in love with the universe. All I achieve is his service. When I lie down, I prostrate at his feet. Whether I rise or sit down, I can never forget him. For the rhythm of his music beats in my ears. In the space of awareness, when you see there is one, there are no boundaries.